For the first time, Puerto Rico, with the help of a group of students from the Inter-American University, launched a satellite into space, becoming one of the few countries in the world to make it. Our Christian Ramos explains more on the history
and liftoff.
Cargo Dragon takes flight, continuing a busy year of deliveries to a crew of 7 aboard the International Space Station.
Students from the Inter-American University of Puerto Rico School of Engineering in Bayamón are making history. They have designed and developed the first Puerto Rican satellite recently launched into space in collaboration with NASA and the Florida Space Institute. The project has been in the works for over 3 years and has been brought to life by more than 65 students. As part of Mission 23 of SpaceX, the satellite known as the PR-2 was sent to the International Space Station from Cape Cañaveral. It will take about 9 hours to arrive, and once there, it will be launched into space and remain in orbit for the next 2 years. During that time, the satellite will study the origin and development of planets and young stars by recording and photographing microparticles. The PR-2, which weighs little more than 5 pounds, was constructed with aluminum, photovoltaic cells, batteries, and other materials that have been approved for using in space. It's also part of a scientific investigation carried out by the Inter-American University in Bayamón that began more than 7 years ago. With this launch, Puerto Rico became one of the few territories in the world to have launched a satellite into space and contribute to the study and development of similar devices. Reporting from San Juan, Puerto Rico, Christian Ramos.
All right, thanks, Christian. Switching gears now, Ida, when it was a hurricane, struck Cuba Friday, making its first landfall in the afternoon on the southern Isle of Youth before heading towards the western end of the Caribbean nation. Ida intensified quickly from a tropical storm to a hurricane with top winds of 80 miles per hour as it crossed western Cuba and entered the Gulf of Mexico. Farmers in the Pinar del Rio province, famous for its tobacco plantations, hurried the harvest to prevent the hurricane from ruining the crop. Authorities reported that 35,000 tons of leaves had been stored in covered warehouses. In addition, 22,000 head of cattle were moved to highlands. And Ida then made landfall in the U.S. on Sunday. And as of Monday morning, at least one person has died and more than 1 million are without power because of Hurricane Ida, which has now been downgraded to a tropical storm. Officials say the person was killed by a fallen tree. Reporter Michael George is in New Orleans with more on this massive storm.
Ida inundated coastal Louisiana with a heavy and dangerous storm surge overnight. This woman's car ended up halfway submerged as she was trying to reach her father.
Steady. Leave your damn house. Take a left like you're going on Pontchartrain, like you're getting on the interstate to go to the city.
Pastor Joseph Durant has his whole family in the car after his house flooded.
And before we got barricaded in, I said it'd be a good idea that we get out of there. The roof had already caved in. Half the apartments had already caved in.
Yesterday, Ida made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane in Lafourche Parish. It came exactly 16 years to the day Hurricane Katrina hit the region.
Oh my God!
Ida packed winds of up to 150 miles per hour, destroying this neighborhood in Lockport, ripping roofs off buildings, and knocking down power lines. Here in New Orleans, the entire city lost power after all transmission lines were down. Still, officials remain confident that the changes they made since Katrina could prevent a repeat of the disastrous results we saw 16 years ago.
Now is the time that we have been preparing for.
The city spent $14 billion upgrading its levee system to handle storms such as Ida. President Biden approved emergency declarations for Louisiana and Mississippi.
And that was Michael George reporting there. Well, switching gears now, only students who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 will be allowed to attend face-to-face classes in Trinidad and Tobago on October. Prime Minister Keith Rowley made the disclosure at a press conference over the weekend. Vaccination of teens began in Trinidad on August 18th with the Pfizer shot, the only one approved by the World Health Organization for children ages 12 and older. But so far, only about a quarter of eligible children have gotten vaccinated. Rowley said while secondary school forms for 5 and 6 students are set to be back in classrooms from October 1st, that option will only be open to students who have received both doses 2 weeks and have passed that second dose.
we will give the rest of September to get that vaccination done, and the 2-week. So if children are to get that 2-week immunity building and a full vaccination, the 2 dose, it means that they will have to be vaccinated by the middle of September. So by September 14th, all the children who are authorized by their parents to participate in face-to-face learning should have been vaccinated. It means that this figure of 25% should rise considerably between now and the 14th of September.
The Prime Minister said that children need to be back in the classroom.
Online lessons do not a substitute for education make. It is largely private business, for profit, and I am cautioning parents that this is not a substitute to your children going to school. In fact, the government will be monitoring this situation very closely and will take appropriate steps as required to ensure that the pandemic does not establish new policies to the detriment of parents and children.
And U.S. Coast Guard crews have been delivering hope to Haiti, airlifting the injured to hospitals. Haitian families desperate for help have been walking on broken limbs to reach medical attention in the wake of a 7.2 magnitude earthquake. It's been nearly 2 weeks since the quake on Haiti's southwestern peninsula killed at least 2,200 people. More than 12,000 were injured. The U.S. Coast Guard has stepped up to reach those isolated and injured in the southern part of the country. One chopper crew is from a Coast Guard station based in the Bahamas. At the airport in Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, a Miami-based doctor sees roughly 40 patients a day. They've been airlifted to the capital city on stretchers for triage.
Prayer for everybody is that God's peace is with them, that they have His hope, that they allow His grace and mercy to accompany them.
Their families are carrying them, or they're finding ways to make it to the bigger areas so that they can meet a chopper and come in, yes.
Now, private relief supplies and shipments from the U.S. government and others were sent to southwestern Haiti. The need made worse by the rain from Tropical Storm Grace.